Okay, friends, let us begin our metta meditation. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. This is very altruistic, wholesome, universal, living, friendly thought. With this thought, let us begin our practice. The passages we recited are the direct translation of the discourse on living friendliness called Metta Sutta or Karaniya Metta Sutta. And it is very, very good that you all join, and that by now you all might have memorized it, to repeat it every day, especially those who don't know Pali, and even those who know Pali, most of them don't know the meaning. Therefore it is very good for them, as well as those who don't know, to repeat this, memorize this translation of Metta Sutta. With this, let us focus our mind on our breath and notice inhaling as inhaling, exhaling as exhaling. As we inhale, we notice the breath touching the rims of our nostrils and expanding our lower abdomen and upper chest area. As we breathe out, abdomen contracts, chest area contracts, and we feel the breath leaving our nostrils. And then inhaling, during inhaling and exhaling, also there are two pauses, one at the beginning of inhaling, one at the beginning of exhaling, and they also repeat again and again, just like the breath repeats, just like we breathe repeatedly. All these repeat themselves. As we notice this repetition without any difference, our desire, wish to hold on to anything also evaporates with this disappearance of rising and falling. And then also we notice our breath becomes relaxed, the mind becomes relaxed, body becomes relaxed. In this relaxed state of mind and body, there is no room for rigidity, uptightness, and therefore in that space we begin to feel metta in feeling. And naturally, when we relax, metta feeling arises, compassion arises, and our restlessness and worry fades away. And then we gain energetic we become energetic, gain spiritual energy, and then our sleepiness and drowsiness fades away. Honestly speaking, friends, when we are very sincere and serious in our practice, we don't let sleepiness and drowsiness take over us. We simply let that go, and it goes away by itself. And then, seeing all these very natural results of our mindful attention, also we gain confidence, trust in the Buddha who introduced this very wonderful universal truth, and we notice the Dhamma functioning in us invariably. When something arises, something else arises. When that passes away, what is arisen also passes away. This also is a very natural, normal, universal truth that Buddha taught us. So, and the Sangha who join this, practices this, gain the same experience, and they cannot cheat themselves and deceive others. They honestly, sincerely follow this truth to liberate themselves from samsara. Seeing this naturally developing truth in us, insight in us, wisdom arising in us, confidence takes place, and we will have a full confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. And then because of this, joy arises, especially when we see the truth. As Buddha said, I repeated several times, yato yato sammasati khandanang udayabhyang labhati piti pamujjang amatang tang vijanatang. The Buddha said, whenever we see rising and falling of all the aggregates, khanda means aggregates, form, feeling, perception, thought and consciousness, then all of them arise and fall away. Every moment, every time we pay attention, we can see that. When we see this reality, the truth, you cannot hide from it, and you cannot be deceived, and you will be very convinced. With this condition, joy, happiness arises. With this joy and happiness, concentration arises. Concentrated mind sees things as they really are, as Buddha repeated many times. So we see the subtlest changes taking place in us, rising and falling, in the subtlest way, in the subtlest particles in our body and mind. We can see that. And then there is no room for appearing, existing, something permanent called self. And also this, when we see this reality, or we can see how the suffering stems from this rising and falling. And then of course we see that there is no anything permanent. This continuous flux of everything becomes very prominent, clear, and almost virtually visible. dukkha patta ca niddukkha, bhaya patta ca nibbhaya, soka patta ca nissoka, hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. With this metta wish, let us focus our mind on the answers to these questions you have asked. Brian will read them. I will answer them.
Lots of good questions this morning, Bhante. The first one is this. The Blessed One often talks about here and now deliverance. What does this mean?
Fear?
Here and now. Isn't that a kalika?
Here and now, yes.
Here and now deliverance.
Yes. That is very true. We can see this is a very profound statement and a good question, and we must sincerely, directly, honestly try to understand the meaning of this here and now. That is the present moment. In Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha asks us to be in the present moment. Parimukhang sating upattapetva. Establishing mindfulness in the present moment. Present moment is the real moment that we really live. We live in the present moment, which is however does not exist. We talked about the present moment. Present moment also is a fleeting moment, disappearing moment. Present moment arises depending on what we call the past and the future. When we think of the past and think of the future, we can think of the present. But the past is gone, future is not come yet, and the present also is shifting, disappearing. So this is a very important point for us to see how quickly things disappear, how quickly things become impermanent. Now, not seeing this is ignorance, and also not seeing this, we build up the future and experience suffering. This is sometimes called samudachara tanha, craving or desire that perpetuate this moment, also continues to repeat again and again in this life, and at the same time, because of our ignorance, we try to hold on to this moment. And this not being able to stay in this moment, holding our suffering, and this very inability to hold on to anything perpetuates itself. It repeats itself from this moment to next moment to this moment to next moment to next moment, and this life to next life, and so on. That's called Vattatanna, craving for repeating, not knowing that it is so quickly changing. And therefore, we talked about also the cycle of existence, samsara, vatta. I think you remember when we talked about the samsara vatta, cycle of repetition, and when you have a cycle or wheel, repetition of circle, we said that you cannot find a beginning or end of that cycle. And that is what Buddha mentioned in Anamatagga Sanyutta, Pubbha Kojana Panyati Avijjacha Bhavatannacha. Ignorance and because of ignorance and craving, the beginning of this repetition is indiscernible. However, now having said that, Buddha taught the Dhamma. If somebody were to stick there and stays there and ask a logical question, if the beginning is indiscernible and beginning is indiscernible, why the Buddha taught the Dhamma? Buddha taught the Dhamma to show how to break that cycle. To break that cycle, you have to see the beginning point or ending point. Surely you cannot see the beginning, but you can see the end. How can you see the end? When you see in the present moment, you can see the present moment is appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. When we gain insight into this reality, this insight, this wisdom itself is the way to break the cycle. To break the cycle. And nobody in the past, before the Buddha, or even after, other than the Buddha, who was able to break this repetition by seeing the impermanence happening in this very moment. Once we realize this, then whole path is unraveled to us, open to us. This is a right view, seeing this truth exactly as it is. Here and now, this very moment, we have to break this cycle. You cannot postpone it to next life or life after. You can never break the cycle. If you don't see this, you simply get caught in the cycle and repeat again and again. But the Buddha was so wise, so enlightened, that he saw the way to break this cycle. That is, remove this ignorance of not seeing what is happening right now, this very moment. And therefore, it is absolutely necessary for us to pay total attention to what is happening now. What is happening now in us. People talk about what is happening in the society, in politics, in COVID-19, and this sickness, that sickness, and so forth and so on. All these are just groping in the dark and ignoring what we are supposed to do, what we are trying to break through. We should try to break through this repetition of birth and death and so forth, repetition of these aggregates, 5 aggregates and so forth. Only when we break through this and seeing what is happening now, this very moment, in us, in our body, feeling, perception, thought and consciousness, nowhere else. These are the material, all material we have. And this reality is taking place in this material, within this, in this factory, so to say. And therefore, we have to isolate this very incident, very reality. It is the most subtle thing, subtle moment for us to realize, understand through the deep wisdom and insight, mindfulness and concentration. Concentration is like a laser beam. Mindfulness is like the clear eyesight. This I just simply used. Using this insight, mindfulness, and that concentration, we can penetrate this cycle in this very life, here and now. And that is what, in brief, what here and now means. And that is what here and now Buddha meant in many places. The discourse I started talking yesterday is exactly that. Bhadek Mahakachan Bhadek Rata Sutta. I have not explained all these things in detail yesterday, but I will continue it tomorrow. Next question.
Next question. Bhante, this person would like to know if the Buddha, sort of a long question, I'm trying to condense it down to a sentence. This person would like to know if the Buddha said that there was anything wrong with being homosexual, with being gay or lesbian.
You know, Buddha did not talk on one particular area of human sexuality, but Buddha said in general that lust, greed is the cause of suffering. No matter whether it is heterosexual or homosexual or bisexual or whatever it is, the fundamental cause of that is the desire, greed and lust. Buddha addressed that. He did not go into specific of various ways people prefer. Whatever way you prefer, underneath all of them is desire, greed, ignorance, lust. And that is what we have to attack. Other things are all peripheral, details. Once we uproot the main cause of suffering, we end up in happiness. So all these things, you don't have to ask whether the Buddha asked us to do this or that and that. Once we know the cause of our suffering is greed, desire, lust, liking. We use many terms. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante.
Next question.
Dear Bhante, I heard that in the Gihi Sutta, one can become a Sotapanna by following the 5 precepts perfectly with right understanding. Is this true? Can you explain?
Well, 5 precepts may be the basic sila that one has to observe, but 5 precepts themselves will not lead, observing 5 precepts itself will not lead to again Sotapanna. And Buddha said it very clearly. Na sila patamattena bahu satyena va punatava samadhilabhena Vivicca sayanenava pusami nekkama sukang aputujana sevitang bhikkhu vissāsamāpādi appatto āsavakkhayang. What we have to do, sila is important. A layperson has to observe at least the 5 precepts. That is the basic important thing. At the same time, while observing the precepts, one has to have the other qualification. First, listen to Dhamma, parato ghosa. Listening to Dhamma, if you don't have a person to listen to write Dhamma online, read books, whether paper books or e-books or audio books or whatever, books, read, or listen to Dhamma, write Dhamma, paratogha sappatya. Then associate with the right, excellent friend, kalyanamitta. Then follow the Dhamma very meticulously, scrupulously, sincerely follow the Dhamma. And the last, so listen to Dhamma, have excellent friend, Dhammanadoma Patipatti, and Yoniso Manasikara. Yoniso Manasikara means reflect from the root of Dhamma. Roots are greed, hatred, and delusion. Non-greed, non-hatred, delusion. There are 6 roots. Whenever a certain mental state arises, you immediately must know whether it arose from greed, hatred, or delusion, or non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. That is within you, up to you. So these are the things you have to do. Listen to Dhamma, associate with excellent friend, follow the Dhamma, and reflect on the root of mental state that arises. And then you have to overcome believing in the attainment of following rituals and believing ditti, sat kaya ditti. Sat means is, kaya means something permanently existing, ditti means view. Sat kaya ditti, view that there is something in the body, feeling, perception, thought, and volitional consciousness. In these 5 aggregates, there is something permanent, and that is a belief. So believing in existing of that. Existing in these 5 aggregates in 20 ways. In Pali it is called Rupang Attato Samanapasi, Rupang Tang Vatanang, Attaniva Rupang, Rupasming Vatanang, and so forth. For 4 ways on each aggregate. When you multiply that, there are 20 ways of people think that there is something permanently existing self. That's a belief. And Sat Kaya. Sat is. Kaya means the permanent self. The belief that there is some, then believing in that and holding on to that has to be completely evaporated from the mind. You still will have your belief that I exist, ahankara, asmimana. That will exist. But the gross part of self, belief in permanent self, will vanish. And then doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and morality, dependent origination. This, through the practice, I said you have to listen to Dhamma, associate with Kalyanamitta, and follow the Dhamma. When you follow the Dhamma, you should be able to see the dependent origination and impermanence and the Four Noble Truth, should be able to see at least to certain degree. Not perfectly well, but up to a very high degree you should see. And then you should not have any doubt about these factors, these dhammas, dependent on origination and so forth. When these three, what you call fetters, are vanished from your mind, you are in the stream entry state. Therefore, by observing the five precepts alone, you cannot attain it. But it is absolutely necessary. Observing the five precepts is absolutely necessary. Uh, Basic morality, sila. But by following five precepts alone, without practicing other thing, without other qualifications, you cannot attain stream entry. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante. The next question actually was, what exactly do you mean by Sakya Diti? And I think you just answered that.
Sakkaya Ditthi?
Yeah.
Yeah, I answered that.
So,
Sat Kaya, Sat means is, Kaya means the self, Ditthi means view.
next question. A Thai master said that you are not the body, you are the mind. And another Thai master said, you are consciousness. I'm sure they meant the same thing, but my mind is confused a little bit.
Surely.
Could you please clarify how to understand well who we are?
Now, don't try to understand who we are. Try to understand what, when what arises, what arises. Try to understand that. Don't try to think this is consciousness exists, or the body exists, or neither exists, and so forth. These are all conventional terms. You have to see the dependent origination. When this arises, this arises. When this does not arise, this does not arise. We started in our dependent origination formula at the very beginning. The so-called you, me, I all exist depending on many causes and conditions. And therefore, see the causes and conditions. But don't try to believe that master, this master, and so forth. The teaching of causes and conditions dependent on origination is the Buddha's own teaching. All the Buddhas, Sripasi Buddha, our Gautama Buddha, and all the Buddhas taught us that noble principle of our existence. So, try to understand what this means. It is a very long, it requires long answer to make it clear, long explanation to answer this question. For instance, we say when ignorance arises, then activities arise. When ignorance does not arise, activities do not arise. Activities here means activities that can cause future greed, existence, and so forth. That's called avidya pacha sankara. Avidya means ignorance. Ignorance means not seeing the dependent origination itself and the Four Noble Truth, and so forth. When you see the entire dependent origination, you will see whether what exists, the mind or the body. You will see actually none of them exist. None of them exist by themselves. Depending on one thing, this thing arises. Consciousness arises, depending I consciousness, ear consciousness, and so forth, all these six consciousness and rebirth consciousness and relinking consciousness and so forth arise depending on various other conditions. For instance, when the eye, visual objects meet, eye consciousness does not arise just by meeting them. The eye must be in good condition. You may have eyes, but you cannot, the vision is not there. Its clarity is not there. You may be born blind, although there may be eyes, but you cannot see. You are stone blind. So all this, and there must be lights. So eyes, visual objects, lights, unbroken or abhinda, unbroken or undamaged vision. You have to, when all these four factors are there, you can see. Also, fifth factor is attention. When all these factors come together, consciousness arises. So consciousness itself is not something that exists. It arises and immediately it passes away, and this keep repeating so quickly, and you will see an object clearly. Then you see the object, and therefore that phenomenon needs many other factors, many other components to make you see something and make you to have a consciousness or for consciousness to arise. Many factors, and therefore if you were to ask the Buddha this question, he would say, that is not the correct question. That is not the way to ask the question. Question should be, when what arises, what arises? When one is, what is? When this is, this is. When this arises, this arises. When this passes away, this passes away. When this is absent, this is absent. And so forth. That is the way the Buddha explained this answer, would answer this question. I'm not repeating or creating something myself, but this is how we learn in the Buddha's teaching.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
It's 10:58. Do you want to take another, or
yes,
save them?
If that needs a short answer, you read that.
Let's see. Seems like it says, forget the past and the future and stay in the present without building any sankharas, and not to postpone to tomorrow. Maybe that's a question fragment.
Yeah, it is not clear, but not to postpone to tomorrow is a part of the answer in that discourse. It is, Buddha was not talking about the postponing something, but Buddha was talking about how Chandaraga arises. Chandaraga you cannot postpone to tomorrow, it arises now. Chanda means desire, raga means clinging, desire and lust. I mean, in Pali, in English we have to say Chanda means desire, raga means lust. So it is true that we have to see it right now. This also tallied with the same answer I gave you earlier to the question of here and now. So we have to see how Chanda Raga arises now, and that is how it arose in the past, that is how it will arise in future, and therefore what we have to see is to see it right now. I think this is all time we have for today, and I will continue the talk on Bhante Gunaratana Sutta tomorrow, and thank you very much for participating in this morning session, and I hope you continue your enthusiasm, your the wish to learn Dhamma and practice meditation. You may continue. And I also want to end this session wishing that all those who are suffering from this COVID-19, don't try to blame anybody. Nobody is responsible. Not one single person responsible for this. For unknown reasons, this happened. So now we have to take care of ourselves, and especially since we are suffering, many of our friends, people in hospitals, we want to wish them to recover very quickly, and also we want to wish those very compassionate doctors, nurses, and other hospital staffs who are dedicating their lives to support and help the people to regain their health, and may they live long in very good health to continue their selfless, wonderful service. Others who are supporting, and others who have lost their loved ones, I hope they understand Dhamma, follow Dhamma, practice Dhamma, have good friends, and relieve them from their grief, and live long in very good health to continue their Dhamma practice. And there are others who are financially supporting, and may they live long to continue their noble work and live long in very, very good health. There are many good leaders who are trying their best to help the world with insight. Some of them make very right decisions. And there are some leaders who are also trying very hard to help in their own way. All they need is some insight, understanding, more compassion, and selflessness. We want to wish them to be wise, to have all these qualities, and have wish them to make right decision, to play their part in this situation. And with this wish, I want to end this session.